What's going on, YouTube? I want to talk a little bit about some inflation stuff and general economic outlook, because I don't know. I find it weird when I see, especially I feel like on Twitter, there's a lot. It's like I don't know if they're personally wealthy or what, but there's definitely some people that are like. There's also definitely some people that are doing it for political reasons, but just in general, there's economic people or people just commenting on the state of the economy. Basically with a positive outlook. And like, I'm not saying they're necessarily guaranteed wrong. I disagree with it. I'd like to know what you guys think. My main thing that I saw last night was basically a guy talking about a new inflation reading. A new inflation report came out that's like 2.2%. And I don't even remember which acronym it is to describe. I mean, what is it? The PCE, the CPI, the core, like there's all these acronyms for all these different ways they calculate inflation, what basket of goods they use, and all these things. So I don't even know which one he's talking about, 2.2, whatever. I believe CPI was 3% last time they came out with one earlier this month, year over year. So we're sitting around 3%. I don't know what his 2% was, but I just responded and was like, basically, I mean, that number to me is complete bullshit. Like, I don't believe that for a second. I don't believe the 3% number. I don't believe any of it in terms of what the Fed basically comes out and releases. And the one guy responded to me, some other guy responded, was like, then whose numbers are you basing it off of? Which, I mean, valid point, whatever. I mean, what numbers do we have? And that was the thing I wanted to talk about, is like the numbers we have. My personal opinion is they're cooking the books on that shit. Like, these numbers are not correct, and my argument for that is what is their incentive structure at the Fed? Like, the Fed has their dual mandate, maximum unemployment and to control on inflation. So, or maximum employment, not unemployment, obviously, and to control inflation. And so their incentive, in my mind, is basically they're trying to keep a grip on the general sentiment of the economy and keep everything moving in the right direction. That's good, whatever, they're trying to do their job. But along that line, I mean, what are they more incentivized to do? Would they be more incentivized to tell you the truth, even if it's worse than what it, like if it's if things are bad, they're not going to tell you they're bad, because if they tell you they're bad, they're going to cause people to panic. That's just human nature. Like, people panic and overreact to shit. It is what it is. If you can figure out how to not do that, you're going to succeed financially in a lot of ways, especially stock market related things, and not get emotional or get too attached to what's going on. Just roll with it, go with the flow type thing. It is what it is. But they're not incentivized to tell you the truth, I guess, in a way. Like, they control these, like I said, the basket of goods. They pick what's in them. They're doing all kinds of things that they can manipulate these numbers in different ways. And I don't know. I don't want to be that guy, but it's like, I don't know how many people are looking at when they go get the prices people are paying for things, and they go send people out and actually, like, I don't know if they go out to like a grocery store and write down prices for everything, or what they're doing, or they just surf the internet and they're just searching all kinds of prices and trying to find prices on the same items they used in the past. I don't know their methodology. I don't know how many people really know. It'd be interesting to find out. I mean, that's kind of a boring topic in general, but I don't know how much people look into their methodology, and I don't think it's very much. So I'm incentivized not to believe what they say, because I don't think they would tell you the truth whether it was good or not. Like, and that's my opinion, honestly. Like, if it's really good, I feel like they're incentivized to tell you the truth because, hey, the economy looks great, everything's going great. And if it's bad, they're incentivized to tweak it a little bit, cook the books on it just a tad so it doesn't look so bad, so people don't panic. Because if people panic, there's obviously some chain reactions that can happen. And I don't know. I want to know what you guys think generally. Like, you guys believe, like, when they say it's 3% inflation, I mean, do you believe that? And I mean, how many people really understand the fact that it's your 3% on your 6% on your 9% or whatever that we've had the past couple years? Just making numbers up, but it was higher in the past couple years, so we're just compounding. We're getting hit with compound inflation, like the opposite of what you want your retirement accounts to do. Your compound interest, we're getting reversed that. So we're just are losing our money at a faster and faster clip. And I want to know what you think. Like, I mean, do you see these numbers and think they're real, or you think they're twisting them too? Because, like I said, that's my opinion. I don't think they're incentivized to tell us the truth. And I think there's, in general, like general economics, like macro scale stuff, I just think there's too many negative things, negative catalysts, I guess you could say, that are looking like we're headed to the downside at some point. I mean, we will, obviously I've said this before too, like we will go down at some point. There's always corrections. That's how it works. You can't go up. I don't know. Is that a general problem with capitalism people have, where it's like you can't have exponential growth indefinitely? It's not possible. But that's, for some reason, that's kind of what we look for in our companies and things like that. Like, the population isn't growing like that, so I don't know how we could have exponential growth in our general economies. Our GDP keeps going up, but I mean, I think it's pretty easy to, if you wanted to dismiss GDP as oh look, the GDP is going up, the economy's growing at whatever, faster than we thought, 3%. It's like, well, if inflation's 3%, that means everything costs 3% more, so you should at least be able to do the math on that and factor in how much they're buying the same exact amount of things, but the overall money number is going up. I don't know if they correct for that or not, so if I'm wrong on that, call me on it, go ahead. But I don't know, it seems pretty easy to be like, well, everything costs more, so it's not really that impressive to me that people are spending more money. Like, that's just what it is. People have to cut back on, obviously, like the nicer things. I don't know, home prices are what, like some places 50% over the past couple of years. Car prices were up easy 50% over the past 3-4 years before COVID happened. Same with housing. I mean, everything's up. They say, I think the general consensus is like over the past, like before COVID started, I think we're up like 20 to 30% somewhere in general, just very general terms. I think we're sitting somewhere easily around 40, 50% if I had to guess. And your wage isn't keeping up with it, so you lose money. And that's what I really wanted to get to, was like, I don't know. Nobody's coming to save us from this thing. I think we're starting to hear the narrative that like the Fed is succeeding in like a soft landing, or whatever you want to call it, no landing at all, and they're going to start cutting rates and everything's going to be nice and peachy, or whatever the fuck. But the thing is, the inflation is built into the economy. It's not ever going to stop. I mean, rarely do we see a period of deflation. I think when COVID happened, we did, when the economy fully shut down. Very abnormal, not a normal thing. So they're aiming for 2% regardless, and if anything, it's going to be higher than that probably, on average. So your money's losing value. The only way you can win in that scenario is you own assets, whether it be your retirement, your stocks, I don't know, fucking gold if you want to do that, something, Bitcoin if you're into that kind of shit, your house. I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily I don't think it's a very good idea to consider your like home an investment, because I don't personally do that. I know people argue for it one way or the other. I don't think it's a great idea, because really it's like the security of owning your home, I think, was worth more than the investment, whatever. The only way to outpace this is own assets. And I mean, it got so crazy for a little while there that like used cars were technically an asset because they're going up in value. And like I mentioned it before on this channel, like in talking, a car is probably the worst thing you could buy as far as like maintaining the value, unless you're using it for work or something. I mean, you're just getting triple fucked by a car. Like, everything about it is you losing money. But it went so backwards for a little while, it was actually an appreciating asset, which is just insane. Like I said, houses, everything's up, stocks up. And that goes back to the infinite growth thing I was talking about. How long can it go up without a correction? We haven't had a correction. I was just listening to a video before I started this, talking about the S&P 500. We haven't had a 5% correction in the S&P 500 in like 18 months, the last 18 months. And on average, we have at least 3 of them in a year, I think is the stat he said, which, I don't know, fact check me on that if you want, but just, if we're even close, well, we haven't had one in 18 months. We've been on an absolute rocket ship I think I was looking at Nvidia though before this as well, that Nvidia peaked out at like 140 some bucks a share, and now we're down at like 104. And they were riding that AI bubble and all these things. So it's like it's just how it goes. It's a cyclical thing. Like everything blows up and then it corrects, and then it blows up and it corrects, and it will keep doing that because our economy is set up in that fashion, and at least until something breaks, which I don't think something will completely break. Where like, I don't know, the fucking United States dissolves. That's not what I'm saying. We're gonna keep on this cyclical thing though of a boom bust cycle, and the busts are never as bad as the booms. That's the whole thing. The economy is generally growing and growing and going up, but a correction is somewhat required because, like I said, infinite growth is impossible. So you need the correction to get everybody back in check. I mean, whether it's a recession or just a general market correction and things drop a little bit and then go back, or whether like the wheels fall off, 2008 style thing, I obviously think it's more likely that it's not a 2008 style thing. Like, I don't think everything's going to go to complete shit like that. I mean, if it did, it is what it is too. Like, I don't care. I'm buying regardless. Like, I have all my investments are through my work pretty much right now in like a Roth IRA, like, and the other money I'm just saving for a house. So it's like it doesn't really matter. If it blows up, I'm buying. If it keeps going up, I'm buying. And if it drops a little bit, I'm buying. If it's flat, I'm buying. It doesn't matter. Because that's the only way you can outpace the inflation. Yeah, maybe stocks are down for a little period. Maybe there's a year or two of like stagnant stock prices and things. They don't rise as fast as they have been. And maybe inflation goes up or down from where we're at now. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe it goes into disinflation. What is it? Disinflation. And our money actually becomes worth more, whatever. But it's built into the system. They're going to inflate the currency because they have to. And that was another thing I wanted to talk about quickly. It was like, we just hit $35 trillion of national debt. And the whole system is set up around our debt and our inflation. The inflation is required to maintain the debt. Right now, interest rates are high. The rates set by the Fed are high. So we're paying, I don't know, it's a little over, it's like roughly what our military budget is, or maybe even more, like $600 billion a year in interest payments on the debt. And that might be interest and principal, but I think it's just interest. So we're looking at $600 billion, more than we spend on our military just to maintain the debt we have. And the reason that it's so high is because the interest rates are up right now, and when they cut them back down, it lowers our debt burden. Interest obviously go down as we are setting our own rates, which is a weird thing in itself, but it just is what it is. How much longer they can maintain it, I don't know. But the only way they can maintain it is to keep inflating the currency, because that's the only way they can afford the debt, is by basically destroying the value of the dollar so much that they can pay the debt off in the future with easier dollars, cheaper dollars that are worth less. So hypothetically, in 20 years, when, I mean, the average salary in like a nice area is 70 or 80 grand. In 20 years, when the average salary is 150 grand, that means everybody's making more money, paying more taxes. So then it's easier for them to make that debt payment. I mean, by then the debt, who knows what the fuck's the debt's going to be? 70 trillion? I have no idea. They keep ramping it up. It's exponential. It keeps going up faster and faster. I think this year, I mean, Biden was all over it claiming that he's decreasing the deficit. Not what that means, but he's decreasing the amount of money we're going into debt each year. So that's good stuff. Not fast enough, not even close to fast enough. But they'll claim it. But they'll just keep increasing the debt. And like I said, inflation's the only way we get out of it. So that's a guarantee. And the only way you can avoid it is buying assets. Whatever your asset is, I don't care if it's a fucking Pokemon card that somehow goes up in value because it's a collector's item. That's it. Right now, I have money sitting in cash getting like 5%. And that's great. But like I said, they say that inflation's 3%. I think it's probably 4 or 5%. So I'm at least just breaking even on my money to sit in a bank account. But that's better than sitting in a true like checking account and getting no interest, getting 0.01% interest and losing 4%, 3-4% of my money each year. So that's what we got to do. Like I said, I think the course is pretty easy for a regular person. Like, I don't know what happens with the system. Who knows? I mean, well, I'll just sit here and watch just like you. The only thing is be prepared for anything, and then you don't lose your ass on like a house you couldn't afford and the housing values drop and all these kind of things. Like, there's plenty of bad shit that could happen to you. But if you're being smart about it, like I said, that's just opportunity in the long run. So I'm just sitting here waiting. Hope you're doing the same thing. You guys got to let me know if, mainly, I don't know. Do you believe the government when they come out and tell you what the inflation is? Because I don't buy that shit for a second. And I want to hear what you guys think. I'll catch you guys tomorrow.